Okay, so I'm excited about today because I have a feeling that some of you guys are going to be thinking to yourself, wow, I didn't even know that that existed. And I didn't even know that this existed until a couple months ago when I was at Emory during lab sites. And it's just a really great resource as we've been kind of talking about phonics and the need for that for our students. And we know that TC added the phonics units of study, which was really able to address quite a large gap in some of our early reading teaching. But there was still sort of this other piece missing, like it dealt with the phonics, but it really was still missing that phonemic awareness piece. And this piece of curriculum, I call it curriculum, they refer to it as supports because it's not necessarily a full-fledged curriculum. But these supports really address that missing gap. So that piece that comes prior to the phonics units of study or comes in order to support the phonics units of study. And as we're thinking about FastBridge and some of our intervention plans where we have, third or fourth grade classrooms that are still having assigned to them plans that are like 0.1, 0.2, 1.1. And for a lot of the upper grade teachers, and I see a couple of my upper grade teachers in here, when I was in upper grade, I felt like I have students that are at this level, but I don't know how to address those issues because I, at that point, had only been an upper grade teacher. So, we don't all go into it necessarily knowing how to teach the phonemic awareness or how to teach even the phonics for that matter. So today, our training is going to take a little bit different shape than what it normally does. So let me talk to you a little bit about what our training is going to look like, and then we will begin. So first, I'm going to just kind of give you a little introduction to the supports, like help you to understand what they might look like in the class. Then we'll go into the actual details about them. So what are the things that you need to know about them? And then you'll see one of my sample lessons with Mrs. Rios's kids. Thank you, Miss Nicole Rios, for letting me join your class yesterday. I was not feeling extra great because I was a little bit out just because of the vaccine and my body was not loving it, but we were able to record it. And then where this PD is going to look a little bit different than my normal PDs is there's actually a pretty good chunk of time allotted for you guys to be able to collaborate or practice, plan, explore the actual curriculum. Normally I'm like, sucking every minute, every second out of the PD. But today we actually have an allotted amount of time for that. And then at the end, there will be closure and feedback. So one thing I want to clarify prior to beginning is that, because I do see a couple of my Nestor teachers in here. So this is specifically going to be English phonemic awareness. Now, maybe it can transfer to Spanish. I'm not going to be delivering this particular PD from that lens or from that perspective. But I want to let you know that in case for my Nestor teachers, if you decide maybe this one isn't quite the right fit for me, you can always join another one of the professional developments. And before my Nestor teachers or any of my Spanish teachers leave, you're welcome to stay, of course, but if you choose to leave, just know that we are working on something for you guys, a collaboration that I sent an email out, I think it was a few days ago now. So check out that email. Okay, we are ready to begin, and we're a little bit behind schedule, but only by 2 minutes. So, okay, on this slide, so if you were able to get into the slides, this slide, which I believe is like slide 3, slide 4, you'll see that it says open up the files. If you click on these, it will open up the curriculum for that grade level. Now, the kinder curriculum and the first grade curriculum, they are pretty much the same, but there is one really foundational difference So we'll talk about that today, but I would recommend if you are above a kinder grade level teacher, I would recommend opening both. Okay, so let's talk first about the kinder supports, because the kinder supports, when I say that they are alike in a lot of ways, there's just one really big foundational difference. A lot of what I'm going to go over right now with the kinder supports will apply to the first grade supports as well. And then when I get to the first grade supports, I'll tell you what the differences are. The only thing to think about though with is, even if you are a first grade teacher, you might find that you actually need to use the kinder supports, but we'll talk about what that looks like. Okay, so the first thing is that they are sequential and systematic. So the kinder supports, they follow a very routine-like structure. It's like 3 days a week, you have your exact same thing that you're doing, you have a set routine, and we'll look at that when we dig into the units. They also are meant to be used alongside the phonics curriculum. So they actually mirror the units, and I put here in skills and in timeframes. So you'll see when we look at the units, it's divided by the units and by the time that ideally we would be spending on each phonics unit. So for instance, it might be like superpowers or word detectives or whatever the units are that it aligns with, but it aligns with the phonic units. And then also the nursery rhymes and the songs are the same. So whatever you're seeing in the phonics unit, if you are doing that same exact unit or the unit that aligns with that, you'll see that a lot of the work with the songs and the nursery rhymes will actually transfer into the phonological awareness. Then the next thing is that it can be adjusted to only do the skills that meet your needs. So it does have like a structure where it's like you would start with this and then you go to this and then you go to the next one, but it's flexible. You can definitely use the pieces that you feel like your kids need. For me, I like to take the guesswork out of it and just stick to the structure because it's just that is easier for me. But of course, as your students need. And it can also be used in small groups, which for my upper grade teachers that are here, that's most likely what you would be using it for, is for your intervention small groups. It takes about 8 to 10 minutes per day, and it's 3 days a week. And I recorded a sample of this, I mentioned in Nicole's class yesterday, and it was like exactly, even with us kind of talking and getting started slowly, it was like the lower end of 8 minutes. So it's not a huge time commitment. It could be something that's just like a morning starter, but right before you get into Reader's Workshop or right before you get into phonics. It's intended to be light and snappy, fun, and highly deliberate. So you're not supposed to be laboring over these different routines, right? It's not like I'm going to teach you everything in this moment. You're just like, you're moving, because it's really about the repetition as much as it is about that specific lesson. And then lastly, it's a mixture of oral. So it's a lot of oral, a lot of not sharing the screen. There are a few print connections in there that we'll talk about, a few visual elements. And then it's a lot of gestures, which I know you guys are, a lot of my primary teachers, you're already teaching your kids gestures. So you already know that work. Okay, so now we're going to dig into the actual details of it. So this is where it gets a little bit meaty. If you're a note taker, then this is where you would be taking those notes. Otherwise, you're welcome to just access the slides at a later time. Okay, so this is the stuff that as an upper grade teacher, I just really didn't know. And so there's been a lot of learning that's happened around this. So with the kinder phonological awareness, a couple things about it is it's basically utterly foundational to everything else you're teaching. So if you're teaching phonics, if you're teaching reading, if any of that work, if they don't have this foundation of the phonological awareness of knowing what sounds are, what phonemes are, all of that, then there's going to be gaps when you're trying to teach them to read. And also this phonological awareness, it develops along a progression of skills. So it starts with like kids working with words and sentences, being able to identify syllables, onset rhyme, and phonemes. And this is all broken down for you. So even if you're like, I don't know what all of that means, it's broken down for you and laid out for you exactly, so that you don't necessarily have to be an expert in what everything means, but you're able to just follow the plan. And in this progression, children move from being able to hear, identify, and manipulate larger units of sound, which is what we're talking about on this side of the progression, and moving to smaller units of sound until they have highly developed phonemic awareness that allows them to work with individual phonemes, the smallest sounds in language. Now, when we're talking about like, okay, so how does this all play out? There's specific strands of phonological awareness, and we'll see this both in kinder and as well as we'll see this in sort of different shapes within the first grade supports. So the first is rhyming. So you're actually working with rhyming, even though, you know, we think of that as something so simple, that's actually a foundational element of phonological awareness. Kids being able to say mat, sat. When I'm driving in the car with my daughter, sometimes I take advantage and we'll play games, and I'll think of a word, and then she has to think of as many words as she can that rhyme with it. And it brings on such great conversations because I'll be like Matt, and she'll be like sat, bat, hot. And then we're able to talk about, okay, why does hot not work? It doesn't come from the same word family. Listen to the sound. And so that process or that practice of them recognizing rhyming words, which ultimately is them recognizing those sounds. Isolating. So being able to say, like, of course I chose R, which is the hardest one. Nicole Rios, I'm thinking, why did I put run? I always have a hard time with this one. Right? Run. So it's being able for kids being able to isolate sounds, whether it's at the beginning. So like sun, what's the beginning sound? Or what's the ending sound? Right? So being able to isolate beginning, middle, or ending sounds. Blending and segmenting, being able to break words apart, being able to put words together, and then manipulating words. Like, let's pretend that the word is tip. Now don't say t, instead say hip. So them being able to manipulate the sounds with words and word endings. Now, I mentioned earlier that there are some print connections, but unlike phonics, a lot of phonemic awareness is oral. So most of what you're going to be doing is literally just like you guys are seeing my shared screen, but I'm just looking at you guys right now. So it literally feels like this. I'm just sitting here with my class of students. We're talking, we're doing this practice together. But there are, as the units progress, a few portions or components where you will be sharing your screen. There's some work with the alphabet where your screen will be shared. There's some work with like tapping, your one word, one touch. So there's a little bit of that work done in the phonemic awareness, and we'll talk about where that is. But again, most of it occurs within the oral realm. So looking at where you're going to see that work. So in units 1 and 2, it's almost exclusively oral. And in fact, in my video, I made a mistake because I shared my screen for the alphabet. And that particular lesson that I did was the first one from unit 1, so it shouldn't have been shared. By unit 3, in fact, I believe, yes, by unit 3, that will be shared. So you'll see that I made that mistake. I'll mention it again whenever we're looking at the video. And then in unit 3, they begin to track print in poems and songs, as well as blending, segmenting, and manipulating using magnetic letters, which we're not going to be using magnetic letters. So there needs to be some thought about what are we going to do instead? Like, we would be using magnetic letters if we were in class, but since we're on distance learning, are we instead going to think about Jamboard? Are we going to think about having the kids make letter cards that they can hold up? Are they going to use their whiteboards? What is it that we're thinking about? So in Unit 3, there will be that manipulation of the magnetic letters. And then in Unit 4, we start using the Elkonin boxes, which for my upper grade teachers, if you're not familiar with those, they're basically just a line of boxes where the kids are able to identify that each of those boxes represents a sound. And they're writing letters in the boxes as they're working on blending and segmenting. Now, the first section is those strands that I was talking about. And let me just go back to them so I can show them to you real quick. So these right here. So remember I was talking about these strands, the rhyming, the isolating, the blending, the segmenting, and the manipulating. But there's 2 other components that are touched upon in each daily schedule. They are word awareness, and that is made up of the 2 components, which is songs, poems, and chants, and alphabet practice. So these kind of break the structure of the strands, and you're doing a little bit more of that print connection in these. So when we're thinking about the songs, poems, and chants, it provides practice for them to be segmenting sentences into words. Early in the year, you'll often recite a nursery rhyme and nudge the children to count the spoken words. So that's again, when we're looking at, let me go back again. When we're looking at our progression, right, we're starting with those bigger chunks, those words and sentences, and we're working as the units go on for kids to be able to break down into those smaller units such as phonemes. Also, over time, this practice shifts into tracking print while you read, which is where that one-to-one correspondence is going to come. And on alternating weeks, beginning in Unit 2, we'll be using oral mentor text in the word awareness section. And as you get a chance to explore the units, you'll see that. Now, the alphabet practice, so this is one section that really is not about phonological awareness. So it's really not about the sounds. It's really just about them having the alphabet memorized. And it's completely concepts of print, except for maybe like at the beginning when you're singing it and they're not seeing it, but then they're seeing the letters and you're just making sure that they're having that ritualized review of letters. And as you progress across the units, we start with the alphabet strip, which you'll see in my video, to the alphabet chart, and then you'll be using the alphabet cards. And in order, they'll be in order, they'll be out of order, and eventually we'll be adding the digraphs and the blends. Now, just like you would do with sight words, let's say if you're doing the alphabet cards, so these 2 points to the side, this is referring to the alphabet cards. So if you're using the alphabet cards, you're not necessarily going to be going through all of them every day. If your kids know certain ones, then you can start removing cards. And also thinking about, am I going to be using uppercase or am I going to be using lowercase? And this, again, is going to be more directed towards my primary teachers. Upper grade teachers, your kids probably have that letter recognition. What they don't have is the sound recognition all of the time. So as an upper grade teacher, you might decide to cut this out because this is something that, a 6th grader, even if they're learning their sounds, might turn their nose up to a little bit. They don't necessarily want to sing the alphabet sound surrounded by their 6th grade friends. So you can think about, what do I want to cut out? What do I want to make work for my grade level, for my kids? But I would encourage my primary teachers to go ahead and do this, even if you feel like your kids, maybe this is sort of easy for them. It's nice for them to just have fun with it and it's very quick, and for them to feel really successful at something. And then after the early stages of singing and chanting the entire alphabet together, you'll make decisions about the letters that you're going to review each day. Okay, so now how is 1st grade different from kindergarten? The main difference is that the kindergarten curriculum is laid out for you in a day-to-day schedule. So it's like week 1, day 1, week 1, day 2, week 1, day 3. And then it moves on to week 2. Whereas first grade is no longer laid out as a routine like that. It's laid out by skill. So for instance, you'll have an entire page of activities on identifying a final sound, for instance. I'm just using that as an example. So the first grade curriculum, because it is organized by skill and not by day, as a teacher, it's more like you pick and choose what your kids need. And so what that means is that you're picking and choosing items that from your phonics assessments or from whatever assessments you are using, you say, I know my kids need this. Or from your fast bridge intervention plan, I know my kids need this. And then you're able to use that. That really is the main difference. And we'll take a look at that right now. Okay, so before we go into the sample lesson, I want to just go ahead and show you a little bit about what I'm referring to, so that you can see it. So in this first section, all of this orientation, really, it's a lot of what I covered right now, so you can always refer back to that. And then right here, you'll see at a glance, which just goes over what is the work that the kids are going to be doing in each of the strands for each of the units. Now, once you start the actual first unit, so you can see here, this is Making Friends with Letters, which is Unit 1 Phonics for Kinder. It will tell you the work that you're going to be seeing. And it will also tell you the songs and the poems that are going to be in the phonics unit and also referred to in the phonemic supports.
Megan, excuse me. How did you get to that file?
I clicked on this picture, and once you click on this picture, it will, there it is. You'll pop up right there and you just click on it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, now for each of these strands, remember I mentioned that there's going to be gestures that go along with all the work. And so they lay out for you what the gestures are. And then they also give you like a word description of what it would look like. And then additionally, they provide for you sentence frames or coaching frames that you can use with the kids when you're saying it. So for instance, words that rhyme sound the same at the end. Listen to how these words rhyme. Matt, sat. You can feel the rhyme in your mouth too. Repeat the rhyming words after me. Ready? Matt, sat. And you'll see me do that with the kids. So it just takes kind of the thinking workout. You just follow it. I mean, I love it. It's made for ease to implement. Okay, now this is an example of what week 1 looks like. So you can see it's broken down into day 1, day 2, day 3, and you see the rhyme repetition, the isolating initial sound. It gives you the exact words that you're using. You're not having to create any of this, and you just follow the directions. Then it moves into week 2 and week 3, week 4. And once you get past week 5, you'll see that it goes into the next unit. So now we're looking at word scientists, and it does sort of mature a little bit. You'll see in the next unit that it kind of adds like some things that we didn't see in the first one, like isolating the final sound that wasn't part of unit 1. So it's getting a little bit further along in that progression. But again, it's set up the same way. It gives you week 1, week 2, and so forth. And that's there for every unit. Now, you might, if you've never seen this before and never have done this with your kids before, you might say, okay, I want to just start on the unit I'm on. But you might also say, well, in this case, I feel like my kids need what was from unit 1, even though right now I'm teaching unit 4 in phonics. So that's a decision that you'll have to make. Which unit do you actually want to try on or start? Okay, now, if we look at grade 1, you'll see like it looks very similar until you actually get into the sections. And this is where it's not divided like a calendar, it's divided by skill. So if you think my kids need rhyme repetition, which would be very much like a kinder skill, but these words are a little bit more complicated. So if they need rhyme repetition, then this is the section that you would jump to. Let's say if they need rhyme recognition. So in these ones, they're just repeating the words after you. In these ones, you're saying two words and they're telling you, yes, it rhymes. No, it doesn't rhyme. And it keeps going. There's rhyme production. So you give them a word and they're creating words that rhyme with it. Isolation. So I'm going to say a word. Let's catch the first sound in words. I say the word and they tell me what the beginning sound is. So zoo, zzz, that type of work.
Megan.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. When we're looking at our Illuminate reports and the fast track that we did and some of the interventions that they suggested for groups, so anyone that had like rhyming issues, would this be a better way to follow?
It's not that it's
I
better.
felt a little bit more lost on the suggestions they had. It was like books of paperwork to run off. So this,
Right.
and this is more accessible, isn't it?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say, that it's better or worse. I would just say that this is another option. And
Okay.
as you're monitoring your progress in your intervention groups, if you see like this isn't the intervention that I'm doing with FastBridge, for instance, maybe isn't working with this group of kids, then this might be a different one that you would try. So part of it is, having that choice, which one works better for you. And it could be a mixture of both. It doesn't have to be just one. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this whole packet because you have a set amount of time to do this, but I do want to show you where it's located. So let me just log in real quick. Sorry, I was logged in, but it logged me out. So let me go back in. So when you go into your resources, so I'm actually already in the units of study in phonics. This is just the regular units of study. You're not going into the like virtual units. This has nothing to do with the virtual units. This is just part of the regular unit. So if I scroll down, you'll see here are all my units, my small group support work. If I keep going down here, it says supports for phonological awareness. It's the same exact thing with kinder. Now, second grade does not have a specific support for phonological awareness, but second grade would be accessing either the first or the kinder unit. Now, when I scroll down, I have a few options here. I like the color always, but when you click on color, it's just going to take you here. Or I also can access the Elkonin boxes. You can see this gives me options for the 2 sounds, the 3 sounds, or the 4 sounds. And then I love these. So sometimes when I'm looking at the gestures, I'm like, I can't really figure out what it is they're doing from the pictures or apparently from the word description. But I realized that they created videos just for this. So let's do adding phonemes. Let me turn the volume on.
You have add, you have cap.
So you could see that just makes it really simple. That's exactly how you do that gesture. And maybe you're thinking, if you're a primary teacher, I already have gestures that I use with my kids and it's not that one. Change it. No problem to change it. You do the gesture that works for you. The idea is just that the kids know that that gesture represents that strand of the phonemic awareness. Okay, so now let me go back here. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to watch a sample lesson. I feel like I'm behind, but let me see. Oh, I'm only 1 minute behind. I've been working really hard this year on staying on time. So we're going to watch this lesson. And before we watch it, just a quick reminder that at the end, I share my screen during the alphabet. Because this was unit 1, I should not have shared my screen. So just know that going into it. Today we're going to work with sounds and we're going to work with some of our letters. So we're going to start with rhyming. Words that rhyme sound the same at the end. So I want you to listen to how these words rhyme. Are you ready? Mat, sat. You can feel the rhyme in your mouth too. Will you repeat the words with me? Are you ready? and do your head just like I'm doing. Matt, sat. Matt, sat. Good. I love seeing your heads move. Let's see. Allison, I saw her head move. Saul, good job. Let's do some more. Ready? Went, sent. Went, sent. Good. Let's try another one. Cow, now. Cow, now. Let's do another one. Ray, play. Ray, play. Good. Rosalie, I see you moving your head. Great job. Let's do two more. Met, bet. Met, bet. And last one. Sit, fit. Sit. Good job. Okay, now we're going to be listening for the beginning sound, So let's catch the first sounds in the word. Are you ready? We're going to say rug. Can you do that? Do it with your arm. Rug. Is that first sound. Okay, let's do another one. Sing. Sing. Okay, ready for the next one?
Yes.
Puppy. What's that beginning sound? Good. Okay, the next one is home. Home. Ready for the next one?
Like I wish I was at home.
You are at home.
No, this is my grandma's.
Oh, you're at your grandma's home. Okay, let's do another one. Ready? Ball. Ball. Okay, you guys are going to do the next one. It's our last one. Ready? Coat. Oh, I love how I see you going all the way down your arm when you say coat, and then you say, good job, you guys. Okay, ready for the next one? Now we're going to take two syllables and we're gonna blend them together. Okay, are you ready? Watch how I do the first one. Playground. Playground.
Playground.
Okay, ready? Playground. Let's do the next one. Okay, ready? The next one is sunshine. So let's try the next one. Ready? Backpack. Good. Let's do the next one. Inside. Good. Good. Okay, now we're going to do the next one. This time, I'm going to give you a word and you're going to help me break it apart. So we're going to start with it together and then we'll clap out the syllables. So the first word is rainbow. Rainbow. Good. Okay, let's do the next one. Okay, I'm going to say the word and you clap out the syllables. Ready? Outside. Now clap out the syllables for me.
Outside.
Good job. I know why Miss Rios loves you guys so much. Okay, next one. Are you ready? Shoelace. Clap it out. Good. Next one. Doghouse. Yeah, you guys are so good at this. I think it's because you have a really amazing teacher, huh? Okay, the next one that we're gonna do, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna sing Pat a Cake. Do you guys know that song?
I do.
Patty cake, patty cake. And this time we're gonna sing it with some of our friends from today that have been learning about their sounds. Are you ready?
Patty cake,
Patty cake, patty cake, baker's man. Bake me a cake as fast as we can. Pat it and roll it and mark it with an A. Who could it be? Put it in the oven for Allison and me. Woo! Okay, let's do another one. Okay, let's see. Let me pick. Okay, I'm ready. Okay, ready? Patty cake, baker's men. Bake me a cake as fast as you can. Pat it and roll it and mark it with an I. Who can it be?
Alicia.
Let's see.
Ian.
Put it in the oven for Ian and me. Woo! Okay, we do it one more time, but I'm gonna skip forward a little bit. Okay, we're gonna do one more. Let me see. Who should I choose? As fast as you. Ian's with an I. Let's see. Put it in the oven for Elijah and me. Can you tell which one is Elijah? You can always tell because they have this big smile on their face. We're gonna do one last thing. We are going to sing our alphabet song. Are you ready? Let me share my screen. You guys know that song, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, here we go. Follow along as we're singing. Please forgive my singing in advance during this. H-I-J-K-L-M-N-O-P Q-R-S-T-U-V-W-X-Y. Now next time, won't you sing with me? All right. Great job, you guys. Let me stop sharing so I can see. Okay. So you can see that was it. That was the whole thing. It was pretty fast. And actually, I probably could have gone faster. I was doing a lot of like, you know, good job. And of course, I mean, we need to do that, of course, but I probably could have even picked up the pace a little bit more. Okay, so
is this where you weren't supposed to share the chart?
Yes. So if
today
we would have, whoops, sorry about that.
And
Let me get past that. If we would have been in unit 2, then I would have shared the chart. Although honestly, if you share the chart, it's not that big of a deal. But yes, technically in unit 1, that should have still been oral. But I realized it after we had already recorded it. So okay, so let's see. We are 4 minutes ahead of schedule, which is perfect because it's going to take me about that long to explain to you what your options are. Okay, so the first is that you'll need to make sure that you've opened up either kinder or first grade or both of the files. And then the second is I want to talk to you, and actually I think I might, I think I might skip forward to the options and then I'll come back to what the divide and conquer option is. Okay, so the options for the breakout rooms right now are going to be this. So the first, which I'm hoping people are going to choose, but if not, that's okay. The first is going to be the divide and conquer room for the kinder curriculum, and I'll explain what that is in a second. So that's the room like where we all take a portion to work on something to bust it out, to get it done as quickly as we can. The second room would be for first grade, people that are going to be implementing the first grade curriculum that say, we want to talk about like, how are we going to do this? So which assessments are we going to look at to determine what our kids need? Are we going to create some sort of routine, or are we just really, everybody's going to just use it based off of whatever skill their students need? And then all of the remaining rooms, there's a bunch of other rooms. All of the other rooms are just like if you with your partner or your team or whatever you want to go into a room together, you can private chat them. If you guys say like, we want an upper grade room or we want a fifth grade room, you can tell me, I can rename one of the rooms. So that's going to be very flexible. And really it's just about whatever your needs are. Now, let me go back to the divide and conquer, and I'm going to explain what this is. So when I was planning for this, although the packet is very well laid out, I was finding for me that it wasn't, because I wanted to see those sentence frames that they had put with each gesture. And so I was having a hard time because I was like having to go back to the pages before. And for me, I was like, because I always think in the structure of slides when I'm presenting, it's easier for me if I have some sort of structure. So I'm going to show you what I created. And if this is something where you say, yeah, I think that that I would also benefit from this, then I've already sort of created the template and we could work together in room 1 to just divide and conquer the actual production of it. So this is week 1, day 1. This is what I use. And so what you'll see is it just has the day, so which lesson it is. It has the name of the strand. It has whether or not I'm sharing my screen. And then I just used the snip tool to snip the words, the movement, and the frame. So the sentence frame that I was going to be using with the kids. And then I just made a slide for each of the different ones for that week. So week 1, day 1, this is everything that you just saw in the video. That's exactly what I used in the video. Especially, I think this is going to be useful when we get to the ones where like we're showing a poem, and so that you're not having to like pull the poem out and put it under the Elmo if it's already on the slide. I think that's a really nice option. But this is how my brain works, and I don't necessarily, that's not to say that that would work for everyone else. But if you are interested in working on this template, so I had started, I have all of the slides in there for the first unit, and I started the template for the second unit, then we can go into that room 1 and we'll figure out once we're in there how to divide and conquer it. The first grade room, I'm going to just pop in there real quick just to show you guys where you can find those assessments if you're thinking about using the assessments to determine which skills to go over. And then every other room, as I mentioned, is open. So you are able to assign yourself. The breakout rooms are already open. If you want to be a part of the divide and conquer room, then you can go to room 1. Otherwise, first grade room 2 or any other room. You guys can go ahead and start moving now to your rooms, and then based off who needs help moving into rooms, then we can go from there. And we'll be in our rooms until 1:20. So we have about 35 minutes to work. So I'm gonna get first grade, just like real quick, show them where the assessments are. And then my plan is to be with you guys the rest of the time. But I want to kind of just briefly mention how I did this, and then we can figure out how we want to divide it. So I only made the templates for the first unit, and then I started like I think it was 1 week's worth of templates for the second unit. So you guys might want to do the unit that you're currently on, the phonics unit that you're currently on. So I think that that would be a matter of, discussing, like, do we want to just start with the first unit and make our way through? Or do we want to jump to the unit that we're on in phonics so that it correlates? That's up to you guys. But really all I did, like, so if this is week 1, day 2, I went to week 1, day 2. So let me go up, and the colors correlate. So if you look, like, this is the purple unit, making friends with letters, and it's purple here. And then this one is the blue, and it's blue. But so if I go, let's see, right here, making friends with letters, week 1, day 2. And then I scroll down, week 1, and here's day 2. So I just would do my Windows Shift S,
Okay.
outline. Yeah, Windows Shift S will give you the little shortcut, outline it. And then I go back here and I paste it. And then stretch it out. I don't know why that's so blurry. Oh, I think because I'm on my second monitor and I took the screenshot on my second monitor and it always comes out blurry like that when I do that. So ignore that, but you still get the idea of how I did it. Then I would go to this rhyme repetition and I would do the same thing with,
Is that the same thing as snipping it,
Yep.
Megan?
Mhm.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so then I do the same thing here and I snip it and I come back here and I paste it. I think I had this like, I think it was over
At the
here.
bottom?
Yeah, it was like that. And
Yeah.
then I just do the same thing with the little guy, the gesture. And then I just stretched everything out to make it big, you know. And you'll want to check and make sure that this matches up. So rhyme, repetition. And then the way that I would probably divide it is just, I would just say like, maybe have whoever is going to do it so that you guys don't end up, oh gosh, first grade keeps sending me the message to go over there. I feel so bad. I'm ignoring them, but I'll be right there.
Mhm.
Like I would just in the right-hand corner, just put your name just so that you guys know who's going to do which slides. And then I would just see how much you could get done. And I'm going to continue working on these as well. Because for me, this would be really, I would like this. The way I would do this is I would probably put all of them in one slide deck. And then in my teacher's planner, I would
Yeah.
each day put like slide 75 to 82. And
I
then
agree.
that's how I would know. Because I think if it was multiple files, even though there's a downside to it being so long, like to me, just having it all in one
Better.
place and being like, okay, scroll down to 85. Here we go. Oh, I just guessed
Mhm.
85. And it actually was the first one. But that's how I would do it if it was me. So are you
Okay.
guys good without me? Can I go to first grade and then I'll come back?
We
Are there
have no
any
choice.
questions about this?
Thank you, Megan. That's
Okay.
gonna be helpful, I think.
Okay, so I'll be back.
There's Megan.
Hi, you guys. I
Alright.
apologize.
Here. Okay, Megan's
I
here.
wanted to
Great.
get Kinder going since they're working on that document. So I apologize. Okay, so for the first grade curriculum, let me go ahead and share my screen. So when you go into Heinemann and you go into the guide to the phonics, so right above the supports for phonological awareness. So this is like, you know, in your phonics curriculum. And if you go into this guide, these are all the assessment tools. So you'll see in here that there's the letter sound correspondence, there's the digraph sound correspondence, blending and segmenting. So you could specifically give these assessments and then from there determine what skills it is that your kids need. So, you know, do they need initial blend? Do they need final sound? What is it that they need? Or you could also not give these assessments. You could base it off of your FastBridge information, but it's obviously it's not going to align exactly like for you to be able to say, oh, my kids are missing medial sound, you know, that part is going to be complicated. For me, I really like the routine of the Kinder one, but I also get not necessarily teaching stuff that your kids don't need, right? So the benefit of doing it by skill makes sense.
And the slides that are being created, will we have access to those? I think that's what she's asking maybe with that.
Are you talking about room one?
Yes.
These
those.
slides? have to see. I'll,
And then
when they're in
we
total.
were also wondering, so the kinder, they're making those slides. Is it different for the first grade one and we wouldn't do the same thing, or?
Yeah, so first grade, I don't know. And Katie, I think Katie Patton is in here. I think it was Kate. No, maybe it was Yolanda that I talked about this with, but we just didn't know how to make the slides for the first grade units, because since it is by skill, like how would you do it except to just create all the skills at once? But you don't really need to do that because it's kind of
They're
already
already
done
there.
for you, right? See, like here, the phrase even is on the same page as the skill. So versus in the kindergarten, that phrase, that coaching sentence frame, it's look how way far up here I have to go to, there it is. I have to go all the way up there to get to it. So it really made sense to do it here.
Okay, so the layout is different in the first grade one. Okay. gotcha.
Right. The only option would be, but this is where it gets tricky, is like, this would sort of be by teacher. You could choose 5 skills and create something like this, something that's set up like this. But it is tricky because to like divide and conquer, because different teachers might want to put 5 or 6 different skills together than another teacher. But you very easily could do this. Watch, sorry for moving so fast, I know it gets dizzy, but like you could start with week 1, 2, 3, whatever, doing rhyme repetition, and then obviously rhyme recognition is a little bit more advanced than that, and then rhyme production is like a little bit more advanced than that. So you could have like one rhyming one in each thing, but it's just not as, it's not as cut and dry to be able to collaborate on it. But I definitely think you guys could talk about it right now and see. I mean, at this point, there's only like 13 minutes left, So
Megan, I keep skipping where the assessments are that you were talking about.
yes. So when you go into Heinemann, if you're in your regular phonics unit of study, and you scroll down here, it's in the guide to the phonics units of study, and all of these assessment tools are in there.
And then Megan, I have a question. So I know that you did Fast Bridge with some kindergarten students. And so what do you recommend, that we finish all the Fast Bridge that was recommended and then continue with this, or one or the other, or a little bit of both? Do you have a preference?
I mean, I think the main reason to do this would be to determine which skills 100% would just be for informing your instruction, really, because you're not like submitting this anywhere. It's just for you to know which ones you're going to do. So what I would do is if I'm looking at my reality right now, and I don't think I have time at this very moment to assess my kids again, I think that I would pull some of those high utility skills that I know my kids need, and I would just put together a structure that's similar to this. I would do this. I like to have this structure. So I would pull from like maybe 6 or 7 of those skills that I know my kids need just because I'm with them every day, and that the majority of my class needs. And then I would do that. Then as time goes on, then you can start assessing them a little bit to see, a little bit at a time, to see like what maybe they really don't need rhyming, or maybe they really, or rhyme recognition, maybe they don't really need onset sounds. But what I guess my fear in like feeling like you need to go through and assess them and all this is all of that is lost time. You know what I mean? It's like it's lost not lost instructional time in the sense that it's not important, but I would want to get started on the routines and then assess them, sort of scattered, in order to like maybe start with the blending and the segmenting and assess all the kids with blending and segmenting. But in the meantime, get them going on some of the routines.
Give up the Fast Bridge routines?
Oh, no, not necessarily. So are you talking about the interventions when you say the routines?
Yes, the progress monitoring.
No, I would not stop something that you're in the middle of doing. So I would finish out your intervention cycle, see if what you're doing is working, and I can show you, like, I can at Nikolov, we probably will do some of that progress monitoring work, but you'll also know, see if what you're doing is working. And if it's not working, then switch to something like this. But however, I think that this can be, because it's only 8 minutes and it doesn't even need to be that long. I added a little bit extra fluff in that I didn't need to. I'm like, this could be as short as 6 or 7 minutes. Like, this is something that could be added whole class, just like as part of your morning routine, you know? So it doesn't necessarily have to replace an intervention group. It could be something that's done whole class. Danae, what grade are you? You're first, right?
I'm first, yes.
Yeah, so it could just be something that's like part of your morning routine. And maybe you don't do 6 or 7 skills. Maybe you do 2 or 3 so that you can fit it in, or, you know, something like that. It's very flexible. So it really can work for what you need it to work for. Any other questions for me? Because I'm going to head back to Kinder. Okay, so we have about 9 minutes before we'll head back. And then so you guys can use this time to explore the curriculum, or if you want to talk about creating some sort of slides, you could do that. Or if you just want to talk about how it's going to work for you in your class, whatever you want to do. Okay. All right. See you guys. Okay, you guys, so we should be all back. Let me just get us back on the slides. So I gave us like 5 extra minutes because I know that at least in the room I was in, we were like, we needed each extra second. Okay, so that is it for our time today. The only thing left is just our feedback form. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the link in the chat, and you have, it's 1:26, so you have about 4 minutes. If you could just, if everyone could please log into it and fill out the feedback form. And I'm excited to see what you guys think about these supports. And I was really excited about them because they're just easy. They're easy to follow. They meet some really great, you know, foundational needs that our kids have. And so, okay, I'm going to be quiet now so that you guys can fill that out.